On this week's episode of Mastering Mitzvahs, we are covering the most misunderstood event enhancements. Do you think you know them all? Tune in this week. Episode 155 is coming up.
And here they are, your hosts, Dylan Weisman and Mike Langsner.
Thanks for tuning in. Mastering Mitzvahs, episode 155. Mike, you look good today.
Thanks, man. I figured I'd get dressed up today.
Dressed up only for me? And the camera?
I got a day full of appointments.
All right. Well, you look good, man. And you really, Mike has lost like 1 billion pounds. So like you're looking
We're
real
getting
good.
a little competitive here.
It's incredible.
Thank you.
Mike, I had a really cool idea for a topic. When I'm talking with families, this is after they've booked, us or in general, they don't seem to gravitate towards some of the most important enhancements to their event.
Yep.
And I'm not saying you need any of these, but I think it's because they don't understand the value of what these items bring. Maybe they think that it's one-dimensional. Maybe they think that it's too much for their style. And while that may be true for some families, I think it's important to understand the dynamic that each of these different items brings. So my idea here is let's go over 3 or 4 of our most misunderstood bar mitzvah enhancements.
Perfect. And I'm going to piggyback what you said and say the guidance from event planners and venues is key, but they also have to know what they're talking about, because we have some planners that we just know like certain things that they love and they gravitate to, but sometimes they don't gravitate to all the right things. So the guidance is key. So I want to start. I want to talk about lighting. I think that lighting is, in my opinion, possibly the most impactful enhancement that we offer. And sometimes it's the thing that gets skipped over so quickly, because in this day and age, people are thinking about the swag stations, or they're thinking about, the candy bar at the end, and they don't think about lighting. So you want to explain the 2 or 3 or 4 different types of lights that exist first, and why you like each one of them individually?
Sure. So the most easy to understand are uplights, just uplights in general. And they're washing your room in color. And when done right, they're controlled to your whole light show. So that way it can start in your branding color. Maybe it's a soft pink or a yellow or a green, a teal. But then it becomes more dynamic because it's built into your show. So when you're dancing, those lights could be going crazy. Now here's why uplighting is important, and people don't realize it, especially when done right and they're color controlled, is you are now surrounding your celebration with the energy you're looking for. If you're looking for melodic and majestic and beautiful, then fading those lights really slowly during dinner could help build that entire mindset, that bubble around the guest. And then when you make them go wild and crazy, again, 360 view of the whole thing, it provides a feeling.
I'll actually share, this past weekend, I did an event, and the only lights that the client chose were uplights. And that seems to be the most popular, because I think that's the buzzword now. Like, people hear, oh, you have to have uplights. So we were in this huge ballroom, and the lighting at this venue is basically bright or off. Like, there's almost no middle ground. So when guests came in, we had the lights on, and maybe there was a little bit of middle ground. It's bright, middle, or off. There's no intermittent.
There's a lot of venues, especially older venues, there's no dimmer.
Right. So here's what happened. Guests walked in, and it was bright, but that was okay. They had to walk in, they had to get their meal orders, and then we did our opening set, and we had a static color of the uplights. And then all of a sudden, when the guests of honor came in, the uplights were like changing colors and strobing, and it created that energy. We did a first opening dance set. They took their seats. They had their first course, and at that point, I asked the venue, "Hey, would you dim your house lighting?" And all of a sudden, it just went black. But good for us to have uplights. We created an atmosphere now in a pitch black room. Like, if our uplights went off, the room would have been pitch black. But we controlled the room. And what you described during slow songs was exactly it. We had a slow fade during the slow songs. During faster music, it was more like the lights were snapping on beat. And they were strobing, and it created atmosphere. Then at certain formality times, I just made the uplights a solid white to illuminate the room, and I didn't have to go run and find the banquet manager. Hey, can you turn the lights back on? So our uplights really controlled the room.
I want to tell you a really funny story. We lost power during an event, and because our uplights were battery operated, we were able to keep the room lit enough where then our entertainment team could do something with the kids. It wasn't just pitch black in a windowless room.
I remember that story.
That is so cool, and it's like an unsung hero being those uplights. What other lights are there?
So next is intelligent lights, and these are the lights. The way I always describe them is, if you're watching American Idol or X Factor, one of those TV shows, those are the lights that are on stage that make swooping motions, and you see just like the beams of light just like swooping from left to right. Why I think they're so misunderstood, or maybe almost undervalued by customers, is they often think moving lights, you think nightclub, you think just bright, obnoxious lights that are strobing, and people often think lasers, which is a whole different thing. Intelligent lights can make very, very subtle motions as well. They could also project gobos onto wall, like patterns. There's so much that can be done with intelligent lights, and spotlighting is like one of the key features that we do. Mother-son dance, we want to put white spotlight on them so everybody knows, like, look, they're illuminated, they're under the spotlight at that moment. Or grand entrance, white spotlight on the doors. All of that happens with the intelligent lights because we're controlling them. We're telling them what to do, where to be, how fast to move, what colors to do. And that can't be done. Like uplights, you could change the color, but that's all you could change. It's a wash in the room. Intelligent lights are very specific on where you're pointing them.
Well, I think it's important to really hyper-focus on the idea that they create emotion and pattern and some really great just energy on the dance floor, but it also creates an optic invite, basically. Like, I'm standing on the outside of the dance floor and I'm watching a great dance party happen with these lights, because when you're in the middle of the dance floor, you may not actually see those lights, but they're on top of you. They are. They're lighting you up, and you're going to feel that energy regardless. Yeah. But now it's basically an invitation to, hey, come party with us.
I haven't said this in a while, but I used to always say uplights create atmosphere and intelligent lights create energy.
I like it.
If you had to choose, hopefully you wouldn't say one or the other, but if you had to choose uplights or intelligent lights for your own party, what would you choose?
You just told me not to choose.
Well, if you had to.
I think I'm going to go uplights.
You are? Okay.
I think I'm going to go uplights. I think that they're really dynamic in what they do, and for my family, if we're going to get wild and crazy, we can get wild and crazy and it's there, and if we're not going to get wild and crazy, they're just more flexible for me.
So I asked you the question because I was hoping that you would ask me the question.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the question. Which one do you prefer?
Okay, so I would say it depends on the venue, actually.
That's not fair. You didn't give me a caveat.
Yeah.
You said, all right.
All right, so if you're at a venue that has really pretty aesthetics, the room is beautiful, and they have dimmable house lighting, intelligent lighting would be my choice. I would say you want that dance floor light show that comes from the intelligent lights. And if the room is very pretty and maybe it's within your theme, you don't need uplights. But if your goal is to hide certain parts of the room, and we hear that often, people book a space, silly enough, and then they don't like the look of it, well, then we want to darken the room and wash the walls in a color to blend with the color scheme or theme of the party.
Yeah.
So then I would say uplights.
I like that. I like that use. So, I mean, it is misunderstood because people think lighting and they don't see the value in it, and I think that provides a great amount of value to the event.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about staging, because I also think that this is really misunderstood and often misguided. I know some MCs in the industry who will not do events without staging. They hold it at such a high value that they won't go out without one.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago when we had Hector from Total Entertainment on our podcast, we talked about trends with stages, and bigger is the big trend now. Like bigger, more massive stages. But you're right. Sometimes clients say, I don't need stages. Why do I need them? What's the purpose behind them? So,
well, they often don't realize that they're dance stages. Most of the time when we talk about staging, we're talking about these dance stages, these LED
for the
blocks,
guests or
right?
the dancers, not to elevate the DJ. The days of elevating the DJ kind of behind us. I mean, it was actually last week I was put on the stage and my MC is like, really? Why are we on stage? Like it's weird, like sometimes, but
I think that has to be first and foremost that it's for your guests. And I'll tell you a college story. I remember me and some of my best friends, we were in our fraternity house and we were deciding what type of party atmosphere we were looking for. And I said, we need a stage. And they said, why? And I said, because people love dancing on stages. It provides a different level of energy. And I just think like, even like bars and nightclubs are adding in staging.
I didn't even know you were in a fraternity. Wow. See, I'm learning something new about you.
So not only is it great for just your dance party, but it's also great for your command. The messaging of your event, whether it's coming from you, the host and hostess, or your MC, now can get elevated and more available for you to view at all different angles, as opposed to hidden in your crowd. I think that is a really important part. Like imagine I'm trying to run a game, but I'm in the middle of everybody and they hear me, but they don't see me.
Right.
Now they get to do both. And some people are visual learners, some people are auditory, and some people need both. And I think the stage provides you that flexibility.
But let's also face it, the guest of honor, 13 years old, hasn't hit that growth spurt in most cases yet. They're not as tall as the average audience member. Putting them on a stage that's 16 or 24 inches tall elevates them over. So when you're standing there next to the guest of honor, you have your arm around the bar mitzvah boy, you say, make some noise for Jonathan. Like, the room can see him. He's not lost in that crowd. Right. And that's really, really important.
I think another really fun way to utilize staging is it provides you options for photos. The group photos are a little bit more organized now because you have multiple layers and tiers. And if that's important to you, like if you have a lot of kids, a big stage is going to be valuable for your event.
Yep.
So don't sleep on staging. I think it matters.
I have one more piece with stages too. Sometimes you go to a venue and the dance floor is not big enough for your guest count. You know, maybe they have a 20 by 20 dance floor. When we put our stages, if we're doing 4 feet wide by 16 feet long, you just added another 4 feet of depth to the dance floor there. But conversely, sometimes we're at a venue where the dance floor is like the size of a football field and the guest count isn't quite there. When we put our stages on the dance floor, it delineates like the start of the dancing. And you're right, people will dance on the stages, but how far up we put them kind of creates that starting point. So there's a lot of great science behind why stages, and not all stages are the same. Like that, this isn't about selling for explosive entertainment, but just understand, some stages are 4 foot by 4 foot, some are tall, some are a little shorter. Like, what's the purpose behind them?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily want to invest in staging that's like 7 inches off the ground.
Right.
That really doesn't do me a whole lot. But when you get 14, 16, 24, 26, 28 inches off, like you're now adding some serious height.
Sure. And while our guests can't see this, I'm looking at a picture hanging on the wall here in the office, and I could see our team standing on the multi-tiered stage, and the dimension that we get from it is truly important.
What's another one that you like?
So
it's misunderstood.
I'm going to say live talents.
Okay.
And I want to break this down into multiple facets. Live talents are something that we rarely hear a client say they want. And it's something that we often say, hey, are you interested in live talents? No. Like, they're just so quick to say no. But let's take a moment and talk about live talents. There's live musicians, and then there's varying types of performers, whether they're strolling magicians or whether they're like cirque-style acts or costume performers. There's a lot of live talents that I think takes a standard event and elevates it to the next level. Yeah. I'm going to say mentalist first, mentalist or magician. How often does a client say, what can I do for cocktail hour that would make it different? And I'm one of the first to say, I love magic, I love mentalism. And often clients are like, I don't know, that's not for us. Probably because they haven't seen it done great. They've seen cheesy.
They've seen magic shows. This is not a magic show.
Right. Here's why I love a strolling mentalist. First off, it takes up no physical space compared to some of the enhancements that we talk about that do take up a big footprint, like a 20-person foosball table. Like, not all spaces have that room. Right. Also, that foosball table, as great as it is, really geared towards kids. A strolling mentalist will entertain adults and kids collectively. And an hour generally is about the right amount of time that they need to make their way around and see every guest at least once.
Yeah. Well, it also breaks the barrier between performer and guest. Like, now they're a little bit more receptive to a relative stranger talking to them.
Yeah. The goal of cocktail hour is what? It's to break the ice and warm people up. Well, a good magician, a good mentalist, and I use the terms interchangeably, is almost like a comedy act. Like they're going to do tricks with guests and get them laughing and smiling and break that mold of monotony and make them into this happy atmosphere.
Yeah.
And it leaves them talking. That, like,
How do you do that? Yeah.
how the heck did he guess what was on my mind? Like that kind of reaction from kids and adults, male or female, it's incredible.
Yeah. So there's other live talents, and we're gonna skip over. We're gonna save musicians for last because
Okay.
that's an easy one. But I want to talk about like some of the actors that we've employed for various reasons. So like, imagine you're having a Broadway themed event or a sports themed event, and you had an actor, a good actor, come in and pretend to be a news reporter trying to take notes from a red carpet walkway, like that kind of thing,
Yeah.
or a runway, right? Like you have that barker that's trying to like, please, Mike, give me a word about so and so. Like you can bring your theming to life with actors. I know that you just did a couple really cool proposals that included actors for a theme, and there's a lot of ways that you can utilize them. I've seen it where you hire like literal like arm wrestling champions to arm wrestle kids during the cocktail. Like,
Yeah.
There are so many cool ways to use those specialists.
Yeah, Jackie Ryan, the basketball trick guy, is so awesome and impressive. You have a basketball themed party. Why not have a professional basketball player walking around doing tricks? And you don't need a whole big court.
So I want to circle back to live musicians because this is one of those underutilized but so impactful enhancement. Yeah, no, go ahead. Tell me.
So much to say about live musicians. The days of having a full band are probably not very common anymore with bar and bat mitzvahs. But the ability to have a hybrid situation where you choose a singular musician to play with the DJ is so cool and often overlooked.
Well, so a lot of families ask me, like, so they're going to play instead of the music? And the answer is no. They're playing along with it, adding some depth to it.
Right, so DJ's still playing the song list that you as the family suggest. You want Pitbull, you want Drake, whatever it is. The DJ's playing the original song, original artist, but over top, you have a drummer either, playing with sticks or, like Latino-style drummer with their bongos and congas, saxophonist, violinist. These trends made its way down from nightlife into private social events, and it rocks.
Yeah, and they're interactive too. They want to be like in the crowd. There's LED versions of instruments that help, elevate the energy. You have your guests play along. It makes for great photos. And really, it's just something to add to the energy you're looking for. And it's a great use.
Absolutely.
It's a great use. I'll tell you a little trick. There's some percussionists that I've worked with that when we say clap your hands, we'll literally put part of the clap in to help just spread that message even more. So it's more impactful. It's just little things like that are overlooked with live musicians. They're great. And not to mention, they're also super flexible. So a lot of times when you have like a violinist or a saxophonist, they can play cocktail hour music, dinner music, and party music all at different times.
Yeah. Hey, it's a way to make grandma happy, right? Grandma wants a saxophonist, you give her dinner music.
So, but on the other side of live talent in general are, in my opinion, one of the most understood and misunderstood simultaneously enhancements, and that are the blanket statement dancers.
Yes.
Now, we do not call them dancers. In all of our appointments, you're going to hear us call them event motivators, event igniters, because that's what we believe they truly are. They are so much more than just dancers. But for the sake of the argument here, let's refer to them as what the industry calls them. They're called dancers. They're
Sure.
called motivators.
Yep.
So it's so much more important to have the extension of your message from more than just one person.
Yeah.
You wouldn't put 50 kids in a classroom and expect one teacher to handle the whole thing.
You're right. Schools, day camp, like how many students are with each counselor?
So the MC is obviously going to be that heartbeat. They're going to be the one that's commanding the crowd. But when they ask someone to do something, now they have people inside the lines to help bring it together.
Sure. Even in sports, you've got a coach and you've got assistant coaches. It's a very comparable situation.
But I have families who say, I don't want dancers. Like, I'm not a dancer. I don't want them coming up and trying to make me dance. It's so much more than that. They are there to be the referees of games. They're there to be team captains in some competitions. They're there to help you with your candle lighting or helping keep kids quiet during the montage and speeches. They're the extension. But not to mention, MCs have to leave the floor a lot.
Yeah, this is one of those like unseen things, but a good MC slips off the dance floor to go coordinate with the photographer or the caterer. Hey, checking on food time. Are you guys still good? They have to go find the mom. Hey, by the way, we're gonna do candlelighting in a few minutes. Like all those things, an MC walks off the dance floor for. Who keeps the momentum going on the dance floor is the dancers, the motivators.
They're going to keep it going when that MC leaves. So my rule of thumb for a long time has been for every 25 to 30 kids, there should be one motivator that's not the MC.
Yeah, something that we don't talk about often too, Dylan, that point makes perfect sense, but kids or adults gravitate to certain types of motivators, whether it's male or female or just likability. They like them because of their personality or the conversation that they started during cocktail hour. So we see it all the time. Our dancers will come over. Hey, that group of kids over there really I connected with them. Like, great, work that crowd because maybe they didn't connect with that group. So that's why we say not just one motivator, but a minimum of two is most often needed.
It gives you a lot more coverage. But here's something that I didn't even think about until right now when you were talking about how they're giving the MC information. They are connecting with the kids on a level that the MC often isn't because it's a lot more personal, it's a lot more intimate. But then they're providing feedback to the MC, like, these kids are really into Taylor Swift. Like, we got to make sure that we play that. They're giving us the intel that we need to then better execute the ideas.
The MC is often on the stage, working the room, working the crowd, not having those one-on-one conversations. Yep. And you're right, that's where the dancers do connect on a different level.
So we have families that often say, like, I will not have motivators. If you try to give me motivators, I'm not going to hire you, etc. For those families, if you're drawing a hard line in the sand, that's fine.
Well, the funny thing is when we call them game attendants,
right,
they're acceptable.
Right. So I think that the reason they're so misunderstood is they think that they're just there to dance. And it's so much more than a performance to them. These aren't people who are there to only perform for you. And while there's opportunities for that, it's not about them. And they know that.
You know what? I think the reason why people often say I don't need dancers is because they've had a bad experience. The dancers are too flashy